Okay, Venerable and everybody, we have discussed together, I mean actually I'm the only one, right, about the areas of study that I have already mentioned to you, so that at least, there are more than, I say, 6-7 areas of study when you would like to concentrate or you would like to focus on linguistic study. There are many fields that you are interested in. Some people might be interested in getting to find out the structures. You just go to theoretical, right? Some of you are very expert in computer. Maybe you would like to set up, some kind of application or some kind of the programs like Google and Yahoo. They do right now that when, or you know that right now if you just sending information to each other through line, you see that you have both language and stickers, right? So it means that you can use that, you can think about that, and you use computer to help you in the linguistic study. So it means that you concentrate on computational linguistics, right? Yeah. For me, I'm a teacher, for example. So I would like to know what kind of language or in what way that I'm going to teach that to make my students understand. So I just go to apply linguistics, right? So this is, for example. But how about you? What is your job? Or what are your jobs right now? What you are going, why you study here? What would you like to get the linguistics to be useful to your work? So you should learn about what? If you are the business, if you are in business, right? You should know that, okay, language varies all the time. If you go to, right now you are in Bangkok, right? If you would like to go to Narathiwat just to help the people, because right now Narathiwat is under the flood, okay? And when you get there, if you don't understand the language, what would you do? Before you go, you study about linguistics, and then you know that, okay, the structure of the sound is like this and this, and you understand very well. When you get there, if you can speak a little bit, and you can communicate a little bit with the language that you use, that you learn, because you have studied socio-linguistics before, or you have studied theoretical linguistics before, it helps you to communicate, for example, this way. Okay, so this is the fields of study. You can make a choice, what kind of areas that you are interested in, and what kind of areas it will be useful for your, job ability in the future. You can choose. There are many, in the study that you can set up by yourself, okay? Now, and how about the method of study? If you are going to study linguistics, you see that if you are going to study linguistics, what would you learn from study linguistics? You learn about many fields, right? That's what I have mentioned before in the previous information I gave you. If you are going to study linguistics, how or what kind of methods you are going to use? Remember that the first time that I have mentioned before that linguistics is the study of language. Linguistics is a scientific study of language, right? So what does it mean by scientific? We are going to understand more about scientific method, right? I'm sure that some of you have learned about scientific method before. Let us confirm together here that the scientific method, it is the way or the method that we make it scientific. What kind of scientific method involves? It involves the fact. So it means that what you have studied by using scientific method, it must be true. It must be the fact. And if it is factual, if it is the fact, you have to get information, you have to get the evidence to prove that your method is correct, and nobody can make argument about that. Okay? Usually, when you study anything, no matter what subject you are going to involve, if you use scientific method, your answer, your results will be very, very, very true. So how can you get, the true answer out of that? First of all, you have to get data. So data gathering is one kind of scientific method. You cannot just, dream of something and then get the answer. You cannot imagine that something might be this way, that way. No, that is not scientific method. You cannot just say that, oh, people say this, people say that, so this is true. No, that is not scientific method. You have to start with data gathering. So what kind of data that you are to gather if you are going to study linguistics? Of course, the data is language data, right? Because you would like to study about language. So you have to get the data from the language. And when you gather, you collect, you take that kind of evidence, and you have something in hand. And what you are going to do with that if you are going to use scientific method? Well, you have to analyze, right? You know that. Actually, when we talk about scientific method, we imply to research, because when you do research, we have to use scientific method. When you do research, for example, if you are going to work for your dissertation or your thesis, you have to collect data first. Data of what? Data of what you are going to study about. If you are going to study about chemistry of, let's say, a herb, the chemistry entities of a herb, for example, basil, you know basil, right? Holapa, kapau, something like that. If you would like to know about the quality or the chemical quality of that herb, what you are going to gather or what you are going to collect? Of course, that herb, right? So that is what we call data gathering. And then after that, you have to run the process with maybe the chemical stuff, if you are dealing with chemistry. But if you are going to deal with language, you have to analyze the language data that you get. How? You have to analyze, you have to learn about the structure, you have to learn about the meaning of the language. You have to learn about, the rules that make language use. Okay, that is the way. I'm sure that actually when you study Introduction to Linguistics at the previous course, I don't know whether you have studied before, but if you don't, maybe we are going into detail. You just let me know, okay, that what kind of, this kind of the keywords that you would like to learn more. You just let me know, so then I can go back and then repeat it again, or just extend it again, simplify or amplify for you, so that you can get clear understanding out of that. Yeah. So you analyze the data that you collect, and then after you analyze, you describe. So we just say that you make description out of that. I mean, what do you find out of your analysis? And if you are going to analyze the language, we have the method to do that we call the scientific method of analysis. And if you are going to analyze language, of course, the method is different from what you are going to analyze something else. It is not the same. So it means that there are a lot of analysis. And if you are going to deal with more than one language analysis, you probably get more than one analysis method. See, that's what we are going to find later on when we talk about those language analysis in detail, right? Okay, of course, when you analyze something, you have to let the people know. You have to present it to the public. You have to write it up. You have to talk about that. You have to explain about that. You have to tell people what is the result of your analysis. We call description. You have to describe it and make people understand of that. And then you just set up your analysis in group, in form, in areas that we call platform. So that is, we conclude our analysis into data platform. What is the structure of this language? What is the structure of language B, language C, language D, so on and so forth? So this is what we call scientific method, right? So you see that scientific method, it does not have to do only with science. It is the method that you apply to any science. Social science, you have to use scientific method. When you go out to the community, and if you would like to apply your anthropological linguistics to the unknown tribe, the unknown group, you have to try to get scientific method to study there. It means that first of all, you have to get the data enough to analyze. See? If that is what we call scientific method for social sciences. If you would like to, to teach, and you have to use the language in running your teaching. So that is education, right? And if you would like to, try to get one application and put it in your computer, like coding, like what we call bar coding, like what we call the CR code. So you just take computer and you just think what kind of language I'm going to put in so that people would know, okay? Something like that. So this is the way that we use the method that we call scientific method to our language study. So this is, we have the same procedure, but the different inputs or the factors might be different. I mean, The data might be different according to the fields of study, but the methodology would be the same: gathering, analyzing, describing, and set up things into platform. This is the way that we are going to deal with our method of the study, right? Okay, right now, when we use scientific method and we would like to study one language, let's say Thai, and then if you would like to know the structure of Thai language, you have to collect the language, the Thai language first, and then you analyze it, and then finally you just get the structure of the language. That is the platform. But if you would like to study many languages at the same time, you would like to know a lot of languages, so you are going to end up with data platform of languages, see, and you will see platform for language 1, platform for language 2, platform for language 3, something like that. Okay, so this is the way that we are going to apply the method of study to linguistics, see, and you end up with language platform or languages platform. One thing that I would like to confirm here is that when we talk about a language, what does it mean, a language? What do you use it for? Is it very important? According to the definition that everybody understands, we know that language is a tool of communication. Why we have to communicate? The answer that I have mentioned before, right? That because we are social animals, we cannot live alone in this world. We have to contact with the others, no matter what they are alive or not. You would see that sometimes we don't communicate with the human beings ourselves. We just talk to the animals. We communicate with the animals. The animal understands. For example, you have a dog and you just said, let's go to the market. And then it just starts getting up and follows you. So it means that you can communicate with the dog, the animal. You don't have to ask somebody to go along with you, because at least you can communicate with the animal and it goes with you, see? In that way you don't need a friend, but actually the dog is your friend anyway. You cannot live alone, So this is the way. You would see that many people just talk to what? The dolls, the house, to the buildings, to the trees, so on and so forth. So it means that human beings, nature, is social animals. They cannot live alone. So how can they communicate? How can they interact? How then they contact? How can they fighting each other? They use language. So we say that language is a tool of communication. In each area, in each country, in each geographical boundary, at least there is one language to be used for communication, right? For example, in Thailand, we have Thai language, but at the same time, even though speak Thai, but not many people understand, because in different regions they speak differently. Sometimes they do understand, sometimes they understand a little bit, sometimes they understand a lot. It depends on the way that the language is used. Okay? So, in brief, we say that language is a tool of communication. Okay? Because without language, you cannot communicate. See? So, what are the characteristics of a language then? Or what are the characteristics of languages used in this world then? Well, the first one, language or languages are intangible. Intangible means touchable. Tangible means can be touched. Intangible cannot be touched. So, when you use the language, it is intangible. You cannot see, but you hear, but you cannot touch. You see? So, if can you look? Yeah, but just only with the eyes. If you don't have the eyes, language is intangible for you. So, language is used for expressing thought. When we communicate with the others, no matter how many we are going to communicate with, we use the language because we would like to express our thought. And we would like to learn to know what they think. We would like to express our ideas. For example, we would like to tell the others what we think so that we will get the feedback, back from the others when they start using the language. So it means that we use language to mutually expressing thought between us, who are considered as the sender, and the others who are supposed to be the receivers. See? So language is using that way. So we use language to study and to know. This is why language is studied and knowable. If we would like to learn or to know something, we use language by asking or answering or writing or speaking, something like that. So you know that it can be studied and it can be learned. This is the way. So we use the language. If you would like to gain more knowledge, you use language. If you would like to be a learned one, if you want to know a lot, you want to be a philosopher, you want to study more from primary level until university level, you just use language. Okay? It is sometimes, even though in the same country, in the same area, in the same geographical boundary, people communicate, but they use the language differently from each other. And when they speak out, the language doesn't sound the same. Or when they write down, for example, they used to symbolize, something. For example, you are going to say the word kin, that is in Thai. and it is heard as skin. But in English, it is what? Eat, right? And in Pali, what would it be? Punchati, right? Something, puncha. Something like that. So, it means that in this world, languages are arbitrary and unpredictable. Arbitrary means, flexible, can be selected, can be changed, cannot be the same. Unpredictable means it cannot tell how would it be. You go to some place, sometimes people use a language that you don't understand at all. Sometimes you go to a place, people use the language and you don't understand the most. You understand a little bit. So it means that language is arbitrary and unpredictable. You see, this is the way, that is the characteristic of the language details. Okay, since all languages are used the same as the tool of communication, but the characteristic just varies from one language to another. So this is the reason why we have to learn about language, you see, so that we can use it to communicate much better this way. Why we say that languages are arbitrary and unpredictable? You see that there are many types of language used. Two types that we know very well about the language is language can be spoken, or we call spoken language, or writing language. Okay, but you can have some other languages as well. For example, for the disabled one, we can use the body language, right? If you cannot hear very well, we have to use the body language, something like this, symbolize something. Or sometimes we just write down something differently. So this is the way that we divide the language into two main types. One is spoken language, another is writing language. Okay, about the spoken languages or the spoken language, it means that the language, can you tell me what is a spoken language? Can you tell me? Any language spoken? It means that the language that you speak, how do you speak? Okay, what kind of part of your body or the organs of your body that you use to speak out? Okay, we hear the language, the spoken language through our mouth, right? But inside, there are many organs that help each other to make us speaking out. See? If you are interested in that kind of structure of language, how can we speak? You just go to phonology. Not. If you would like to know about the meaning of the language, you just go to the morphology study, something like that. So this is what we call the structure and the level of the language that we use. Okay, for the spoken language in this world, I would like to ask you, you see, how many spoken forms or how many spoken variations in one particular language. See? When we talk about variations of spoken forms or spoken language, it means that in one person or in one particular group of people, they might use different kinds or different variations of the spoken language. See, in this world, we would like to talk about these variations. So you probably get a lot of, keywords or the relevant terms to linguistic study about the spoken form. We probably have the standard spoken language. We probably have polite spoken language. We probably have formal spoken. What does it mean by this? Can you just let me know? We probably have colloquial spoken language, or we probably have informal spoken language. So it means that either standard, polite, or formal mean the same thing. Colloquial, informal mean the same thing. You see? We probably have regional dialect spoken language. What does it mean by dialect? Dialect means the language that used in different region, different area, but can be understandable, can be, even though different, but most of the forms are understood. See, we call dialect. For example, in Thailand, we have 4 main dialects spoken, or we have 4 main regional dialects spoken. One is the northern dialect. So people around Chiang Mai, Chiang Rai, down to Phrae, they speak that language we call the northern dialect. You see? It means that the language that they use around that area is different from the people from Pitsanulok down to Bangkok use. That is what we call the central dialect or the central regional dialect. Okay? And people from, let's say, Nakhon Ratchasima up to Nong Khai, they speak another dialect that we call northeastern. So that is the people around that area speak the northeastern regional dialect. You see? And if you just go down from Prachuap Khiri Khan down to Narathiwat, you see, people speak something else. That is what we call the southern regional dialect, right? You see that even in one country, people do not speak the same. They can speak dialects. And you think about, the countries of this world. You know how many countries are there in this world? How can you know? You just count the number of the countries that are the members of UN. See? So it means that there are more than 230 countries in this world. So it means that even in Thailand, we have 4 dialects, 4 main dialects, right? But we also, in each dialect, we also have sub-dialects as well. Sub means, under. So the SUB, sub-dialect of the northern dialect, like people at Chiang Mai speak differently from people at Lamphun, right? You can notice that. Or people at Lamphun speak the same as people in Chiang Rai, Phra Nan, something like that. But Chiang Mai speak differently from the other part of the northern dialect. So that is, in one area, in one regional, there might be one dialect or many sub-dialects. It depends on the tribe, on the ethnic group, see? And even in the northeastern part of Thailand, that we say that Isan dialect, right? That one. People from Nakhon Ratchasima just speak different from Buriram and Khon Kaen, right? So there are sub-dialects everywhere. And think about 230 countries of this world. How many dialects there going to be? Or even in one area, how many languages there will be? For example, if you go to Switzerland, Switzerland is very, very small country, right? But there are at least 3 languages spoken there. What languages are there? Anybody who have ever been to Switzerland? Okay. Well, in Switzerland, people speak French in one part. In another part of the country, people speak English. Another part, people speak English. You see? Why? Because Switzerland is in the middle of the continent of Europe. You see that the part of the country that close to France speak French. The part of the country close to Germany speak German. And the rest, just part that close to England, they speak English. You see? This is, at least, it doesn't mean that it must be big area that you can have more than one language. In the country like that, they speak, different one. Or even in one country, for example, Africa. Before, Africa is the whole, in one whole country. But people speak differently in many, many, many languages. That's why in Africa, they try to set up the standard language that we call Swahili. Swahili supposed to be the major or the official or the standard or the formal language used by African people in Africa. Or, when you go to, let's say, in United States, for example, America, you will see that people speak different languages, even in one county, in one state. In Hawaii, for example, where I studied my master's degree before, in Hawaii, people speak many, many languages, even though they use English as a formal one. But at home, they speak Korean, they speak Japanese, they speak Thai, they speak Chinese. See? So it means that even one country, even one region, even one small, small place, people can speak differently, you see. So this is the way that we say that the variation of spoken languages of this world, see. Sometimes in one area, 2 groups of people, they speak different languages. For example, the Chinese people in Hawaii and the Japanese people in Hawaii, they speak different languages, right? And they use lingua franca. The lingua franca means the language that used to communicate between the people that use different languages at the same time. Like English, people in Hawaii, if they speak Chinese and another group, another part of the state, they speak Japanese and they don't understand each other, so they use English as lingua franca, okay? At the same time, the pidgin means the language that in the area that people use different language, but they try to use one language that is supposed to be standard or polite form or the formal form. For example, the people who speak Hindi in India and use English as the official or the standard language. So the way that they use English would be different from the native speaker of English in England or in United States or in Australia, right? That's what they probably speak differently, they sound differently, they use the terms differently, they use the structure differently, you see? That's what we call the pidgin English, the pidgin language. Well, the best example, we would say that, okay, in Pattaya of Thailand, there are a lot of girls who use pidgin English because English is not their native language, right? But they just got married to the English-speaking husband. So at home, they speak English together, and probably the grammar is not correct, the word is not correct, the sound is not correct, but they can understand each other. It means that the girl just, you come, and I go first, something like that. That is pidgin, but they understand each other, right? So that is what we call another form of spoken language that they use. Okay, there are many, a lot of spoken forms. You probably heard about Creole, vernacular, patois, lingo, jargon, slang. Okay, so what does it mean by this? Can you tell? Because I don't know, I think that you probably studied Introduction to Linguistics before, and you probably know about this kind of variation of the spoken form. What does it mean by Creole spoken language? This one? Can you explain that? Creole means, when one group or one tribe, they don't speak that language before, but when they come to live in the area that people speak their native language, and that migrated group of people, they have to learn how to use that language. But the way they create and they produce the language different from the native ones, but they speak, they try to adapt themselves, to use. For example, the black people, the Negro, who speak English in United States, you know, their English is called Creole English. So even though they speak, they understand everything, they use the term, but maybe the term must be used in different situations, or the ending might be heard differently, something like that. Or the sound, you know, up and down, different from the native ones. When they start speak out, we know that they are not the native speaker, even though they understand everything. We call Creole. Vernacular means the one who speak the same language, but use different term, their own term, create their own term, you know, and communicate among themselves. For example, people who speak the central language, I mean the central dialect in Thailand, would consider that the language they speak is vernacular. For example, people from Kanchanaburi or Suphanburi, right? When they speak the language, they use the central or the polite form, but have their own technical term, have their own you know, grammar structure. We call vernacular. Vernacular in Thai is Phun Thin, right? You know, vernacular can be adjective for many things. For vernacular culture, you see that people, when they dance differently from each other, but they dance anyway. That is just the same. When they use the language, they use the same language anyway, but they speak differently, you know, use among themselves their own. And they can change immediately when they would like to communicate with the other people that are supposed to be the native ones, okay? So this is what we call, I would like to ask you as your homework, okay? I have another 4 words that I would like to get the meaning. What does it mean? Patois, lingo, jargon, slang. Maybe you can use, you understand slang very well. Slang is what? The language that one group of people, they use, set up, make up, create among themselves because they want to be different, or they want the other people not to understand what they are going to say. For example, the teenager language, the spoken language that we call slang. Right now, they have something else. Okay, they use a word, but they mean something else, right? The jargon means the one that you speak, but you have your own type of speaking, you know. For example, the technical term, the term, the words that used in particular area, even though they mean the same thing with the native one or the standard one, but it's different, you know. For example, around the area that Pisanulok, for the word blanket, pahom, right? At the central they call pahom. But in Pisanulok they have the jargon, their own term, the words that ituop, something like that nobody else don't understand except the people in Pisanulok themselves. Or the jargon, the particular people in Jantaburi, when they speak, they would end up their speech that he, something like that. You see, this is the jargon or the typical language that they use in one particular area that just use make it up just to use in general among that group, among the tribe. It's different from slang. Okay? There are two words that I'm sure that you never know about the meaning. So I would like you to answer this kind of meaning of patois and lingo. What does it mean? Okay? It's a kind of another two variation of spoken form. And I would like to learn about this. Please give the answer to my either email or my line if you would like to do that. And if possible, I would like to know about this. Otherwise, we can, wait until you answer back, and next week, we will give the answer of this, okay? So at least you have two words that you would like to know the meaning. Yeah, this one. So this is what I call the spoken languages of the world. There are a lot of variation. Even in one particular language, we have different kinds of these. You see that at least you have 12 forms of spoken language in one area, particular area. Think about all over the world, you see. Another form of the language that's I call the writing languages, the writing forms or the writing language. What does it mean? Writing is the symbol that we just try to make people understand our spoken. You see that the spoken language we cannot touch, right? We cannot see. When you just hear, but you cannot get the picture out of that. So you just try to, make the other people to understand you, to be able to communicate it with you. So you just write. Yeah. The writing languages, so it is not exactly to expressing thought right away, but it's a kind of symbols that we transcribe the spoken form. So you see that when you write something, there must be a certain rule, there must be a certain concept, there must be a certain attitude about writing. You say that in this world of more than 230 countries, there are many writing forms of language. But in general, we just put into three major types, you see, of writing. When you write down something, you write one by one, right? That we call alphabets, you see. In writing form, you write alphabet. See, and in each language, the way that you write alphabets are different from each other. In this whole world, there are three types of alphabets writing. One is called character writing alphabets, or we say character alphabets. What does it mean by character alphabets? Character alphabet means one character, one alphabet, one form means the whole word. For example, in Chinese, we say that Chinese use character alphabets. One form means something, another form means another thing. For example, if you just draw something like this, it means person, right? Run. If you draw something like this, it means something else, you see. So each character means something. So we just say that character alphabets Another type of writing language use syllabic alphabet. Syllabic alphabets, what does it mean? One symbol represents one syllable. What is a syllable? Syllable is what? Syllable is the combination of consonant and vowels, or syllable is the vowels that is heard each time. You see? So syllabic alphabet, like see, Japanese language writing form, you see? If you just write down this, it means ka. Both consonant and vowel are in one form. We call syllabic alphabets, okay? The rest of the other countries and most of the country, they use alphabetical alphabets. You mean write one by one, like Thai language, the Thai writing language, and English. You see that we call alphabetical alphabet. For example, if you would like to represent person, instead of writing one form different from each other in Japanese, you just write down one ko and then no kon, right? And English just like M A N one by one, like this, man, something like that. So this would be the three major types of the writing forms of the world. Well, you probably have something else different from different from this. So it's I would say that okay, there can be more than this. If you know, just let me know, okay? There are many languages in this world that they have only spoken form and they don't have the writing form, see? So it means that in this world, the writing language has less in number than the spoken languages, right? So, for example, in one of the languages that you know very well, Pali or Bali in Thai. In the Buddha's language, they don't have the script. They don't have the writing language at all. That's why we have to transcribe into our own language, into anybody language, if they would like to study Pali or Bali, right? So we have Bali, the words, the spoken one in different kinds of writing form. See, this is what we say, that the number of the spoken form has more than the number of the writing form. So that means the number of languages in spoken more than the writing ones. So, okay, you look at here. If I ask you, how many languages spoken in this world? What is the correct answer? 4,000? 5,000? 6,000? How many? How many do you know? What do you think? How many languages spoken in the world? Anybody who got the correct answer can get, the prize from me, okay? I give you that. It's a pity that you cannot answer right away from now. But I would say that when I was studying my master degree in Hawaii, by that time, the people found out the languages of the world, and they said that there would be approximately 4,000 languages that they have studied. But you see that from that time up to now, the knowledge is so extended a lot. So people learned about the new language, the new languages. They learn more about their unknown languages because of what? Because of technology, because of more comfortable transportation. So that's why people can go and meet each other very well, can study from each other very well. So right now, there are more than 6,500 languages in this world. So that is the more. So I mean that there are more languages, especially the spoken ones in this world that you can study. And I would tell you that there are more and more dialects to be studied in this world. See? Don't go very far. Right now we are under the COVID-19 situation. You can study about the dialects in Thailand, or you can study about the sub-dialects in Thailand. There are plenty to be studied, I tell you, okay? So this is the number of the languages in this world. And another question that I would like to ask you, can you tell me how many languages can you speak? 1, 2, more than 2? 4, 5, 6, 7? At my university, we just set up the policy that the one who just study at Naresuan University has to learn at least 4 languages. One is Thai, one is English, because that is the what you call lingua franca, the international languages of the world, right? And the third one, you have to learn one of other language that you are interested. Can be the ASEAN Plus languages, one of these or more than one, if you like. And the fourth one is the computer language. Okay, you have to learn how to deal with application, how to make the the code, the coding language. That's what we are going to focus on, forcing our students to learn about this from the very kindergarten school up to the PhD program. So this is the reason why I asked, how many languages do you know? Why I ask? Because you know what? According to the neuroscience, the ones who speak more than 3, 4, the one who speak as many as languages as possible never become Alzheimer, because they have to use their brain, switch back and forth all the time. So this is good for your health, Speak more than 2 languages. It helps to keep your brain, brushing up and bright all the time. See, this is the point. According to the medical side research, they said this. You see that why? Right now, we just start talking about neuro-linguistic, you see. How can we just keep our brain, our nerves become more allergic? Not allergic and energetic all the time. Not allergic to any disease, okay? So this is, you should try, no matter how old you are, no matter what kind of background you belong to. But right now you are very lucky to live in this digital technology era, because you can pick up anything. Before, if we are going to study one language, we have to spend longer time. But right now you study, just script within 4 or 5 minutes, you can have thousands, millions of YouTube, lessons. So you are lucky. It's only one thing that you have to keep, be patient, and don't give up. and try to be energetic to study all the time. You will win and you will become the leader of this world. Okay?